Hey everyone, how we doing today? This is James Sweeney, aka SplitSuit, and welcome back to another video. And as part of the Ask SplitSuit a Question series, a bunch of people asked hand history questions. This one actually came privately via email. And Robert prefaces the hand by saying, I only had 15 hands on him on my HUD, so I wasn't sure what type of player he was. But on the previous hands, he double-barreled 2 times, but I couldn't decide whether he hit both of those flops in only 15 hands or if he was a maniac, even though maniac is the most likely case. His VPIP PFR was 40-40 over those 15 hands. Okay, so this hand is from 5 No Limit on PokerStars. There's a raise under the gun from the 40-40 individual. Folds to hero who decides to call. I would call here as well. Don't necessarily need to 3-bet. We can just kind of call, utilize our position, utilize the fact that we have some pretty sweet cards, and kind of go forward from there. Definitely look out for squeezers and stuff like that, or, fish in the blinds are always a good thing, but, this is one of those situations where I'm very, very typically going to be calling and playing poker. We end up going heads up to it. He decides to continuation bet, and hero just decides to call. Okay, so real quick, let's actually back up a tick and start from here. So in this situation, we have our 3 options. We can fold, we can call, or we can raise. Now, obviously, we're never going to fold, so somewhere between calling and raising. And in this situation, calling can be okay, but always at least consider making the aggressive action and looking at how good or bad that could be. So obviously, raising in here could be valid. So let's think about Edward for a moment. Edward is 40-40 over 15 hands. 15 hands is not a very large sample size, and this could be a tag on a heater, a lag, this could be an aggressive fish, this could be a passive fish who's on a heater. We really don't know. It's only 15 hands. It's very difficult to say. So I don't want to read too much into the player type. I'm just building default estimations more or less. So in this exact situation, he opened from under the gun. So I'm just going to ask myself, if he raised from under the gun, would he continuation bet this board with a lot of different hands? And I'd say probably. Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. And if I raise, how is he going to feel with a lot of those hands? If he has pocket deuces, if he has pocket sixes, if he has pocket tens, is he going to continuation bet, and is he going to love life if I decide to raise him to, say, $1.20 here? And I think a large chunk of the time he's going to hate life. Obviously if he has ace-x, sure, he's probably not going anywhere. If he has a set, he's obviously never going anywhere, but that's probably about it. A lot of his other hands are probably going to have to fold, or at least heavily consider folding. So I think this is a really good situation to raise, and even more so if you don't think that he's going to 3-bet if he has something like ace-king or ace-queen. So essentially you can raise, you can decide whatever you want to do on the turn, and go forward from there. So this is a situation where I'd really like to see a raise, probably up to something like $1.10 or $1.20. I think that's really, really good, and expect him to fold a pretty large chunk of the time, in my opinion. I really don't want to raise if I expect he's going to 3-bet jam it in my face, which puts me in kind of an awkward math spot, so I don't really love that. But if he's your typical guy who's just going to call sometimes and fold a lot of the time, I really like getting aggressive in this situation and raising instead of just calling and going from there. But if you're going to call, there's nothing terribly wrong with calling, but always at least consider taking the aggressive action. So in this situation, we actually end up improving to the nuts on the turn. He bets, and hero decides to call again. So at this point in the game, you just have to make a decision and say, okay, what do I think he's double barreling with? Now again, it's only 15 hands. Yes, we've seen him double barrel 2 other times, but again, this could just be someone on a heater. It's kind of difficult to say. So in this situation, I would just say, okay, do I think that this person is primarily bluffing or primarily betting ace-king, ace-queen type hands, and can I try to go for the home run value? At this limit, I expect that a lot of players are going to make big mistakes with top pair top kicker or top pair second kicker like ace-queen, so I think that I would typically raise in this situation. If you think he's really bluffy, sure, you call here, give him the room to bluff off, and then obviously make your play on the river. Big thing you have to be concerned about, though, is that think about the times that someone else has taken the call, raise you on the river line. How often was that really taken as a bluff? Chances are not very often, and chances are people are going to pick up on that as well if you do it. So I'd be careful in this situation about going for a call, raise river, unless of course you think his range is just full of so much air that you have to give him room to triple barrel. Because when you go call here, what are you repping? You're repping probably an ace that doesn't want to fold, maybe a slow played hand exactly like what we have, but you probably don't have sets, you probably don't have anything like that, you're probably not totally messing around a ton of the time, so also consider what you're representing in that situation if your opponent can think about what you rep. So those are just some things to keep in mind. But what I don't like to see is I don't like to see a call here board pair on the river, overbet shove, and then a fold. So I really don't understand why we're folding in this situation. Yes, he overbet jammed, but there aren't a ton of combos of like monster hands here, right? Of pocket aces, there's 3 of those. There's 1 combo of quads, 3 combos of pocket nines, and beyond that, not a ton else. So my big questions would be like, okay, would he ever do this with like 4 or 5? Well, 1, would he raise under the gun with it? 2, would he take his post-flop line like this? Another thing is he probably doesn't put you on a flush. So he probably is either in a situation where he'll shove 4-5 for value if he ever has it, or he'll pretty much think that you can't call with a lot, so it actually gives him a wide open chance to bluff you, right? So this is a situation where you don't know for sure who he is. You don't know how tight or how wide he is here. And I just have to go under the assumption that he could easily be overvaluing top pair. He could be bluffing some percentage of the time. He could be overvaluing a 4. There aren't a ton of club combos, but maybe he has a rare flush or something like that. So ultimately, I feel very, very comfortable that I have the best hand more than enough of the time. And I think this fold is really, really criminal and gives way too much credit to someone who probably doesn't deserve it yet. You know, it's not like a super nit ran this line at you, right? If a super nit does this, yeah, you're probably not feeling super comfortable. He's not going to have a lot of dominated flushes. He's not going to overbet very often. And that overbet is usually going to be a pinch more indicative of a huge monster hand that he's hoping you make a cry call with. But in unknown, particularly at this limit, I'm not going to give them that kind of credit. So I really think we should snap this off on the river and feel very comfortable. Unfortunately, I think we made a little bit of a mistake here by folding this, but it's an easy one to rectify in the future. So Robert, thanks for the great hand, and if you or anyone else has a poker-related hand or question, feel free to leave it on our Google Plus page. Leave a link for that in the description box, and also please make sure to like and subscribe if you're enjoying this type of video. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to let me know. Otherwise, good luck out there, and happy grinding.